Okay, welcome back. Now, I would like us to continue on the terms used in programming. Now, rather than just jump into coding, it's important for you to understand certain terminologies that we are going to throw around, so that you are when I say look at the source code, you're able to understand source code. So we start with source code. So a computer cannot understand direct source code. So by the way, what is source code? Source code is the code that you have written in a programming language. Uh, for you as a human or as a programmer, you find it easier to understand the source code, but the computer finds the source code to be far away from what it can execute. So it has to be converted into machine code. So a computer cannot understand direct source code. A computer understands machine code and executes it. It's considered a fundamental component of computers. In simple, we say a source code is a set of instruction or commands and statements that programmer writes by using a computer programming language like C, C++, Java, or Python. Source code is computer code in human readable form. So that's what we mean by source code. Now, we can have here a look of how a source code looks like. So we have here our printf for in C, and then you can see like the equivalent translation into source code. In this case, no, in this case, this is the source code, and now when it is converted into object executable code. So source code is programming code that has not yet been compiled into an executable file. And then we have uh, an illustration of how object code would look like of the same source code. So you can now see the difference between source code and object code. Then we continue looking at object code. Object code refers to low-level code that is understandable by a machine. Object code is generated from source code after going through a compiler or other translator. It is now a translator is a software that simply converts from one form of a language to another form of language, instructions from in one form of language. So it is an executable machine code. It is in executable machine code format. Object code contains machine understandable instructions that the central processing unit understands and executes. So machine code, it is also known as machine language or native code. It is low-level programming language that executes computer programs on computer CPUs using hexadecimal or binary instructions. Then we can have here a look of a typical machine code, and you can see how a typical machine code would look like. Now you can now compare with the source code like hash include stdio and so on, so you can be able to see the difference. So source code is closer to the human, machine code, object code is closer to the machine. Bytecode is a sequence of bytes used by certain programming languages, Java, C++, and so on. Programs compiled into bytecode can be moved across various platforms, so they are cross-platform, but only in the case where these platforms have compatible executable environments for such bytecode. For example, Java bytecode will require Java virtual machine. So we have here bytecode. You can now compare with the source code. You can see that bytecode is closer to the way the machine wants to implement it. Now we have binary code. A binary code represents text, computer processor instructions, or any other data using a two-symbol system. The two-symbol system used is often 0 and 1s from the binary number systems. The binary code assigns a pattern of binary digits, also known as bits, to each character or instructions. Binary code. Binary code, of course, is a series of ones, a pattern of ones. Now, everything in a computer has to be collapsed into a binary pattern. So it's just a series of ones that represent the actual thing. Then we have linking. So linking is another term. The process of collecting and maintaining pieces of code and data into a single file is known as linking. Linking is used to join all the modules Static linking means that the library code is copied into your executable file at compile time, while dynamic linking means that the library code is loaded into memory at runtime. Then we have loading. Loading is the process of getting the program from secondary memory to the main memory for execution. A program needs to be placed into the target device's memory before it may be executed. Loading prepares a program for execution by initializing device's memory with the program's code and data. So you can be able to stop